everybody. It's the old bear from the old bear's den of Bigfoot. We're back again today, and sorry for the span between the videos. Been working a lot of hours, driving a lot of miles. Anyway, I was talking to a gentleman up in Pennsylvania this past week, and he was telling me about something that had happened at his house over the last month. Now, over the last month, some strange stuff's been happening. Whenever his wife, the guy lives a quarter of a mile from his dad's. His dad owned all the property, and he deeded off part of the property to him, and part of the property to um, his the dad's daughter, which is his sister. And they built two houses up there, and there's about 100 yards, or not 100 yards, 100 feet between the two houses, and they're almost up at the end of the private drive. And starting about a month ago, they were having trouble hearing whistles and hearing strange noises coming from the tree line around their home. Now, there's quite a few trees in this area. It's heavily wooded. Part of Pennsylvania, it's heavily wooded. It's mountainous terrain. Um, and as they were, sorry, don't mean to jiggle you guys around. Anyway, as they were sitting out at night, letting the kids play in the yard, they would hear something whistle. Um, his wife is a pretty lady, and his sister is a pretty lady, and both of them have a variation of blonde hair. And, well, you all know when you're a blonde and you're sitting outside, and when it comes to these creatures, they tend to like looking at them, at blonde women. Um, so, as they're standing out there, they're sitting out there at night. They hear whistles, and usually by 8 o'clock, the moms take the kids in, and they go out, and they go in, and they have the kids inside, and they don't watch a lot of TV. They're just not into it. Both gentlemen are the brother and the brother-in-law are both truck drivers, and they drive for the same company. And they work together, and they park their trucks right there across the little gravel drive. Well, it's not a little one. According to him, it's about 15 feet wide, and it's heavily graveled, and they got a parking spot for each truck on the other side of the road, and they make good money. And in the process of all this, they hear strange noises, and it slowly ramps up over a 3 week period. And then finally, one week in their home, sitting on the front porch, the brother and brother-in-law, they're sitting there talking, drinking coffee late in the evening. And the kids have already gone inside. The wives have gone inside, and they hear this god awful scream come from the woods, which is just up the road from them, probably about 300 feet or more, a little over 100 yards. And something comes out of the woods, and there's dusted on lights that they have installed on telephone poles that they bought and paid and put in themselves. These are really resourceful country guys. They dug the holes with an auger and put the poles up and put the lights on it and wired it and everything. They're pretty smart. So, in the process of doing all this creature comes out of the woods. It's standing up there, and it's rocking back and forth, left and right, left and right, left and right. And they see it up there. And this thing has kind of a red shine to its eyes. And the thing is that they're not sure if the light is making its eyes shine red or if it's just shining a red eye shine, emitting from its own eyes. They're not sure about what all that was about. So the brother-in-law looks at the his brother and fellow coworker and buddy, and they're best friends. Been best friends since they were kids. And they look. He looks over at him and says, "I'll be right back." And this guy has three coonhounds. He has two males and a female. And the brother has a big, huge Rottweiler German Shepherd mix dog. And as soon as this thing walks out, um, the brother-in-law got up and went over to his house, and this thing must have took a step or two because his dog come flying out of the kennel and right beside him starts growling at this creature, the Rottweiler and Shepherd, German Shepherd mix, and I mean it's going ballistic. It's not running at it and it's not going after it, but it's standing on the porch barking and growling, and I mean it's being very aggressive. And we got a crow for a visitor, as you can tell. He's in the tree right here at my house. Anyway, um, he goes through this, and he hears his brother-in-law coming back across because he's walking. There's a gravel walkway between the two houses they put in. They're going to do all that in concrete before long. Anyway, he's coming back over and he's got his three dogs, his three hounds leashed up, and they and he's carrying a rifle, a high caliber rifle, a 300 Win Mag, and he's like, "You better go get a gun. This probably won't be a good situation to deal with." And I wanted to show y'all something real quick that I picked up at the Bigfoot wind chimes. My wife loves it. Um, I picked that up last weekend at the ECBRO Bigfoot conference in Wyers Cave, Virginia. I just wanted to show you that. Sorry. Anyway, back to the story. The guys, the brother goes in and gets his rifle, and he comes out and he's carrying a 30-06. And the brother-in-law says, "We need to deal with this situation now because it won't get, this thing's showing itself. It's getting brave, whatever it is." And he's not telling his brother-in-law everything that he knows. And the thing is, he knows more than what he's saying. And the brother-in-law is kind of clueless as to what this creature is. And they step out on the porch and they leash up his dog because he had to grab his dog to keep it from going up there. And he puts a lead on his dog, and and the brother-in-law has his three hounds, and they're pretty big hounds. They're 90, 100 pounders. The two males are, and the female's probably 60, 70 pounds. She's a pretty fast dog, and he loves to coon hunt with his hounds. And they walk out there in the road, and they inform their wives, "You're probably going to hear gunshots. Make sure the kids are in the back of the house, and turn the TVs up so they can't hear." So they go out there in the driveway, and they're standing approximately 100 yards from this thing. And it's just standing there rocking back and forth to left leg and right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. It's just rocking back and forth. Excuse me. And it's not making any moves towards them, But the brother-in-law says, you might want to raise your rifle because I'm gonna shoot this thing. I don't, I have an idea what it is, and that's usually not good if they're showing themselves. They're trying to show dominance, and the reason he's probably rocking back and forth is because of uh, it's trying to build up its anger and to come down here. So the brother raises his rifle and he says, "On the count of three, I'm gonna shoot." Well, about the time he raised the rifle, this thing stops rocking and it starts walking towards him and it starts growling at him, and it's carrying its arms uh, like it's pissed. Its hands are, they can see the at the end of the arms at 100 yards, the light's pretty bright where they were at, where this thing was at, and they can see that it's got its hands balled up and into fists, and it's pounding its feet as it comes walking down the driveway. They can hear it, and they can see it pounding its feet, and it's starting to get a show aggressive signs. And this thing starts growling. It screams at them, and it starts as soon as it gets away from the scream. It's doing a deep growl, and it's trying to intimidate them. And the brother's like, well, "What are we gonna do?" He said, "We're gonna shoot this thing because if we don't, this thing's gonna come down here, and it's gonna be a heck of a fight, and it might win." So it gets probably 50 yards or so from him, maybe 60 yards from him, and the brother just boom hits this thing, and it was leaning forward, and it kind of rocked it back whenever he shot it, and then the brother-in-law shot, and this thing stopped and turned and started off into the woods, not running, but just kind of walking heavily away and slowly. And they they're kind of like, "Well, what do we do now?" Well, the brother-in-law turns his dogs loose, and they take off at a run, and the brother lets his big dog loose, and they run up in there, and then they hear this thing scream, and this thing is clearly in a fight with the dogs. The dogs are raising three kinds of heck. They're all barking, growling, and finally, after about a couple of minutes, the guys start up jogging up through there, and they're putting the rounds they spent, they're putting back in their guns, and at this point, they hear the female gyp hound. Uh, she either got smacked or kicked or something, and she yelped, and the brother-in-law takes off at a dead run, and the brother follows behind him as close and as fast as he can. And both these men are pretty big men. They're pretty big, tall guys. They're about 6'1". The brother-in-law's about 6'1", 6'2", and the guy that I spoke to, he's about 6'4" and probably about 280 pounds. He's not fat. He's pretty much muscle. And according to him, his brother-in-law's built just like him. I mean, they've worked hard their entire lives, and they do everything they can to get up in the woods. And they got up there, and they had headlamps on them, and they had flashlights, and they get up there and they run into where the fight's at, and the two male dogs have sunk teeth into this thing's. One's hanging off its arm, and the other one's bit down into the leg. And the guy's dog that was Rottweiler German Shepherd mix. Well, that dog kind of clamped down on the, how shall I say this? A very private area, and this creature is screaming in pain at this point. And finally shakes the one hound off, and that hound gets up and it goes over to the female and starts, standing in front of her to protect the female. And the other male kicks the one dog off, and whenever it tried to grab the Rottweiler Shepherd mix, it lost a little bit of flesh. A lot of flesh disappeared. Um, so um, this thing takes off, turns and starts running, and they gather up their dogs and put them on leads, and they carry the one female dog back to the house. The brother takes the leads, and the other guy carries his female back, and they go back home. Now, I know what you're going to say, if these guys started to fight. No, they didn't. When the creature starts showing itself, it's being aggressive. It's coming out to show its dominance, and it's trying to insert its will onto you. And the reason I know this is because I've dealt with it. So I'm just letting you know that this thing started to fight, and they were going to finish it. Well, nothing goes on rest night. They stay up. They sleep. One of them finally goes to bed about 5 in the morning, and the other one went to bed about 6. And the wives kept the kids in all day, and they took care of the dogs, and he patched up his female dog, and she wasn't too bad hurt. I think she may have been bruised a little bit, but I don't think it got a full swing in on her. And so they go and go to bed, and they get up around sometime in the afternoon, and this is Saturday, and the kids go out and they get in the pool and play around in the pool all day, and they didn't hear nothing all day long. And every once in a while during the day, they would hear sounds and stuff like that. And how about I give you another shot of the wind chimes? My wife loves that one. She loves wind chimes, period. But anyway, they go through the process of, being a family. On Saturday, and it's Saturday night about, I'd say around, I think he said about 9:30, 10 o'clock, everybody went to bed and went in the house, and he stayed up for a little while, and finally he said he went to bed around 11, and sometime between 11 and midnight, this thing let out a scream and started throwing rocks at the house. So evidently it didn't bleed to death. Somehow or another, it stopped the bleeding, or got most of it stopped. And this thing started throwing rocks at his house, and I mean, it was hitting. They wasn't little rocks; it was rocks as big as round as your fist or bigger. And it woke him up, and he got up. And the time he got out to the front, this thing had disappeared, and then he heard a commotion behind his brother-in-law's house. And he started around the edge of the house towards his brother-in-law's to where he could have a little bit of cover from his own house. And his brother-in-law heard the commotion and got up and was getting ready to come out the back door. And when he came out the back door, the brother saw him, and they walked over to where the dog kennel was at, and he had a dog kennel. It was, had chain link fence around it, and had a top on it and everything. And this thing had ripped open the chain link fence and grabbed the female hound. And then they heard a big crash. Well, evidently this Bigfoot was taking its final revenge on this family and ripped the dog in half and threw it through the front window because it had walked around the house, and they found blood, and they're like, oh, this is not good. This is the one that was here last night. It ain't dead. I knew we should have went looking for it. And they run around the house when they heard the crash, and this thing was walking away from them, had walked past the brother's house, which his house is up above the brother-in-law's. The brother-in-law's house is in between the brother and the dad's house. And this thing's walking up through there, and it got back up. It was almost underneath the light. And they had grabbed the rifles when they come out. And whenever they saw it, they threw the rifles up and took shots at it. And when they did, they shot it, I guess, a couple of more times. And this thing took off running as best it could, and they followed the blood trail. They went in and got lights, strong lights, and they didn't take the dogs with them this time. They just went up there by themselves, and they found this Bigfoot, and they shot a few more times. And they didn't go and check. They were too afraid to go check it and make sure that it was, to see if it was dead or if it was mortally wounded or what. But they saw it fall, and they turned and left the woods and went back to their house. So that was Saturday night. Sunday morning, they got up right after daylight and went in the woods looking for it. Well, they went up there where they saw it fall, and it wasn't there. They didn't find a blood trail like it walked off, but they were following blood all the way up to that spot, and there was blood there. Now, I don't know if another Bigfoot, couple of Bigfoot, 2 or 3 Bigfoot come in there and picked it up and carried it off, or what happened to it, but they did not find the body of the Bigfoot that started all this. And they haven't had any trouble recently, but they're on high alert. Their wives are on high alert. The kids are not allowed out of the parents' sight. They're not allowed to, if they want to go get in the pool, that's between the 2 houses. They have to have both parents out there, both the moms have to be out there, or both of the dads, and they're required, the parents have decided that they will carry a firearm, a rifle with them at all times. Luckily, the women know how to use them. So, that is what has happened. But there is an addendum to this. And the addendum is the brother-in-law has an account of when he was a child with his dad, the reason he knew what these creatures were. And we will have that next week. I'm to talk to him this week and find out how he knew that these were Bigfoot, like on the wind chime. Anyway, another picture of it. I like it. And we will have his account from when he was a child next week. I hope you enjoy it, and may every one of you have a blessed and wonderful weekend, and I hope your week is blessed and is full of joy, because we sure do need it in this day and time. Y'all have a wonderful now. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.